sexual chemistry. Let's talk about sexual chemistry. What is sexual chemistry? Right? As a matter of fact, I would ask, what's governing what you feel to be sexual chemistry, right? What makes something feel like it's sexual chemistry or not? Now, I know some people probably say, well, that's something that you don't even need to think about. You just kind of go off a feel, you just get around a person, y'all do this, about, it's just a vibe, you can just feel whether, you got sexual chemistry with somebody or not. I'm not going to disagree with that, possibly being the case, but I will say, I don't think that people just have sexual chemistry. I think there's a reason why, people have sexual chemistry with certain people or don't have sexual chemistry with certain people. So that's what I want to talk about. Look, what is governing your sexual chemistry, right? This is what I like to see. And I say this in other videos. I'm going to say it right now, and I'll probably end up saying it again, right? In my opinion, sex and romance are joined at the hip, right? Now, I do, although these are two different feelings, right? You got the romantic lane of stuff, you have the sex lane of stuff. You might have some people say there's a difference between making love and having sex, even though the same literal thing is happening, right? But I get what they're saying. You probably understand what they're saying too. The romantic thing, I mean, the making love is more like emotional, you more, your emotions are more invested in the romantic sense. And having sex, hey, you can have sex with somebody you're married to, you can have sex with somebody you don't care about, whatever, right? It's just the feeling of getting pleasure from having sex. That would be more like that sex thing, right? So boom, right? Although to me these things are joined at the hip. Now you have romantic feelings, you have sexual feelings joined at the hip, right? But like I said in other videos, like a video I made called The Big Lie About Men and Sex, I think I talk about it in there. You do have things that's attached to these different emotions, whether it's the romantic emotion, whether it's the sex emotion. And you can have the exact same things that's attached to romantic feelings and sexual feelings. Now, I know some people probably saying, what do you mean you have things attached to these things, right? So, let's talk about that, right? Whenever you choose to deal with somebody in one of these ways, a romantic way, a sexual way, or, a mixture of the two ways combined, there's a reason, or reasons, I should say, why you chose to deal with whoever you chose to deal with in that certain way. There's certain things that attracted you to them. I think we all can agree on that, right? Now look, that's why I said you have other things attached to it. What makes somebody attracted to somebody is not set in stone. It varies from person to person, but there are things, and there are probably certain things across the board for the most part that people can agree make somebody attractive. All right, somebody personality, right? Some people might call it swag, right? That's attached to your romance and your sex drive, because you're gonna have to feel some type of way about what type of person that person is, what type of swag or personality they got to make you interested in a romantic or sexual way. It could be somebody finances, right? How you view finances. We're gonna talk about that. Somebody finances. Whether you're dealing with them sexually, whether you're dealing with them romantically, right? If you're dealing with them in a romantic way, y'all gonna be together, build together. In this society that we live in, finances are important. So that can be attached to your romance and your sex drive, right? Even if it's something that seems unrelated, you got other factors, and I'm not gonna be able to name all the factors. Let's take another factor, like believe it or not, the type of music that you listen to, right? The type of music that you consuming on a consistent enough basis to be able to have some type of effect or influence on you or how you view things, even though most people believe that that's not happening to them. To listen to something on a consistent basis over a period of time and think that it can have no effect on you in no way, shape, or form, to me don't really add up. But we're gonna go deeper into that, right? Okay, those few things that I named that's attached to the sex drive and the romance, and a plethora of other things that's attached to sex drive and romance, right? It can vary from individual to individual, right? You could have came up a certain way, and that make you have certain voids. You could have came up a certain way, and that make you view certain things a certain way, and that's attractive to you, and that's unattractive to you. All these things are attached to your sex. All these things are still attached to your sex drive and your romance. Now, those things that I name and other things that's attached to your sex drive and your romance, they have to be undergirded by morals, whether it's bad morals, whether it's good morals, whether it's indifferent morals, which is very dangerous to me as well. But they have to be undergirded, right? Because look, the way you view certain things in this society or this world that we live in, whether it's those things that I name, music, finances, what you deem to be a good or bad personality, what you deem to be swag or not swag, or what have you, right? You have to view those things a certain way, right? What's going to help shape how you view them or how you go about dealing with them is going to be your moral foundation, whether it's bad, whether it's good, whether it's indifferent, right? Which leads me to the adrenaline of sex, right? If you read about, stuff that happened during like the sexual act or orgasm, right? It talks about adrenaline being produced, the fight or flight response, right? I talk about in a video called Other Kinds of Sex, how lanes can be created inside of sex that don't necessarily have nothing to do with sex, right? Because you have free-flowing adrenaline, right? Adrenaline is kind of like a hyped up, cut loose, like it's fight or flight. It's on, like, it's just pumping energy, like, you know what I'm saying? And that happens during sex, right? In another video I made, I talk about how sex is not a foundational feeling, right? Adrenaline is not a foundational feeling. When I say a foundational feeling, what I'm talking about, I'm saying that these strong, free-flowing feelings, they need guidance, they need direction, they need to be encapsulated inside of something that is foundational, so when it's used, it's just not being used willy-nilly or just having a mind of its own or creating lanes of its own, because it's really like untamed. It needs to be tamed, right? Now look, let's go here, right? Out of the two, sex and romance, which I say is joined at the hip, right? It can have the exact same things attached to them, even at the same time. Romance is more of the foundational one out of the two, right? It's more than just a feeling, right? Because when you, like I say, when you roll in the video I made called The Feeling of Sex, when you romantically and get involved with somebody, you not just want to give your heart to nobody right away, right? You'll give sex to anybody right away, right? People do that, one night stands, whatever. People don't want to give their heart to anybody right away. You're going to try to make sure certain things, those things that's attached to the sex drive and the romance, the things that make you attracted to somebody and make you want to deal with somebody in a way, you're going to try to make sure those things are more on point and lined up first, right? So not, you build them more on something that's more like sturdy, right? If that romance is backed up by good morals. Boom. Right? So with that being said, right, the adrenaline of sex, the, cut loose, the free-flowing energy, right, that needs to be encapsulated into something that's foundational. Those things that's attached to your sex drives that I name, and those things that's not attached to your sex drive, that is attached to your sex drive that I didn't even name, adrenaline can be governing those things as well if you don't have it encapsulated inside of that good moral foundation that I was talking about. Whether we talking about finances, whether we talking about the type of music you listen to, whether we talk about swag. Because look, what is swag, right? Depending music and the type of music you listen to can deem what you consider to be swagged out. Can determine whether somebody is what somebody would call cool or lame, right? That's what I'm saying, right? So look, check this out. Take finances, for example, because I think we all can agree in some way, shape, or form. You want to deal with somebody in that type of way. Finances are important in the world that we live in. You're going to be together, live life together, what have you, right? Boom. In this world that we live in, right? Finances, like looking at somebody a certain way financially can dictate your sexual chemistry with them, depending upon how you view finances, right? You have certain amount of finances. Oh, okay, yeah, this person cool. This person got a certain social status. They drive this type of car. They don't drive this type of car. They make this much of money. They have this type of jewelry. They wear these type of clothes. All that. See, all that. Look, finances, swag, all that. Music telling you that all that, right, is dictating who is an attractive partner, which can dictate your sexual chemistry with them. And now look, all of that, you can be operating in free-flowing adrenaline through all of those things. Each of those things are something else. And those things are still attached to your sex drive and your romance. And it can make you lead with sex at the front, which is not the more foundational thing out of the two. And next thing you know, you built the sexual chemistry of free-flowing adrenaline through these things that's attached to your sex drive, and now you ain't really got no real purpose with operating and using in it, but now it's just sexual chemistry. Because you can feel a certain feeling, right? The adrenaline is still going to be flowing, right? You're looking at it through the lens of sex, but the thing that's really dictating it is the things in this world that we live in that's attached to your sex drive and your romance. So really, you really need to be focused on how do you view things in life in general that's attached to making you the type of person you are, because that can determine what type of partner you pick. That get to say make you feel like, man, I'm a good dude, I'm a good woman, you know, why these relationships ain't working out, right? You probably, look, in the lane of sex itself, you may not be sleeping around. In the lane of romance itself, you might not be giving your heart to any old body, right? But that free-flowing adrenaline that's attached, that operates during sex, right, can still be flowing untamed in an area in life that's attached to your sex drive, and it'll still make you pick a bad partner, romantically or sexually. That's why I say, look, to lead with romance at the forefront is a more foundational thing. That's why I make a video called dating. Why are you dating? In that video, I say, I think people should only be dating for marriage, right? You're not just kicking it. What is that? You ain't just free flowing, but I'm here. This is my purpose. I'm dating for marriage. I ain't saying you got to go give your heart to nobody in 30 days. You know what I'm saying? You need to make sure stuff situated and lined up. But yeah, you have some real purpose here, right? And it's causing you to approach people to lead with romance first. Even if it's at the base level, it's causing you to lead with romance first instead of sex, right? This free-flowing emotion that really needs to be encapsulated inside something. This is why, people think people be overdoing it. When people start talking about stuff, you know, that's undergirding certain things, people make it sound like you might be overdoing it, and not realizing the importance of it, right? Not realizing about the free-flowing adrenaline and, you know, just like other invisible things, whether it's trends, whether it's fads, whether it's you know, people points of views and all that can be shaping you and having you like unpurposeful in just different areas in life, right? That's why we all need a relationship with God, right? Boom, just flat out, just boom, relationship with God. Follow what He say. Even if we struggle to follow what He said at times, at least know and acknowledge, okay, this is real, this is the truth, this is how it's supposed to go, right? That's how you start getting stuff set on a good moral foundation. And then those things that's attached to your sex drive that's in everyday life, they're undergirded on morals, like I say, indifferent, which can be all kinds of crazy and willy-nilly. You gotta hope you right or wrong. Bad, which is just bad, or good, okay, no, I'm purposeful, I'm good because, you know, I'm riding with what God see. And when you start encountering these things, or you have to start dealing with certain things, whether it's your upbringing, voids, or whatever like that, right? Boom, you say, okay, this is how this needs to be dealt with, right? And since those things are attached to your sex drive and now they're on a good moral foundation, it can help you to start governing your sex drive better. It can start changing in a healthy way what you deem sexual chemistry, right? You know, I just wanted to say that. Hopefully it wasn't too much. I just wanted to get that off my chest. I feel like it's an important video. I feel like it's something that can that's probably being overlooked. It can help people to see the invisible stuff.